Okay, set.
Okay, so shall we begin? Okay, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us here for our HSS lecture series, which we have been doing now for several months. We have with us today our fourth speaker, and let me begin by introducing the speaker. Dr. Anuradha Choudry is presently the outreach coordinator for the Indian Knowledge Systems Division of the Ministry of Education at AICT New Delhi and a faculty at the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences, as well as a member of the Reiki Center of Excellence for the Science of Happiness at IIT Kharagpur. She teaches Sanskrit, heritage, Indian psychology, French, and history of science and technology in ancient India. After graduating from the Sri Aurobindo International Center of Education, she went on to do her PhD in Sanskrit on Vedic psychology from Pondicherry University and was awarded the Erasmus Mundus Scholarship of the EU for an MDitt in Crossways in European Humanities. She also received a UN related scholarship for a course on human rights at the Summer University of Human Rights in Geneva. She worked on the Indian concepts of happiness as a fellow at the Development Foundation in Bangalore and established the Center for Indian Psychology in Jain University, which sought to establish an alternative paradigm for psychology based on the Indic worldview. She is also an online instructor for yogaanytime.com and NPTEL as a resource person for teaching spoken Sanskrit, yoga psychology, and about the transformative power of mantras. Besides this, she has done sessions for Orwell International Netherlands, the School of Practical Philosophy and Economic Sciences in the UK, Ireland, Australia, OJ Yoga Crib USA, Theosophical Society, OJB Valley, the European Union of Yoga, ZINAL, where along with Dr. Vinay Chandra, she was invited as a guest of honor. Together, they teach at several other academic institutions and other organizations across the globe. Furthermore, they have founded the Ritambara Yoga Shala, co-edited a book titled Perspectives on Indian Psychology, and co-authored another titled Happiness, Indian Perspectives. In 2019, she received the Excellent Young Teachers Award at IIT Kharagpur. In 2020 and 21, Dr. Vinay Chandra and Dr. Chaudhry have organized the first ever online month-long global festivals of yoga starting on the International Yoga Day with Indica Yoga, which hosted over 200 yoga teachers, practitioners, researchers worldwide, reaching out to over 50 countries. She was also part of the team organizing the second edition of the annual Mysuru Yoga Utsava in Mysuru in December 2024 on the theme Ananda. So that's a little bit about the speaker. I'm hoping that all the students, faculty members can make the most of this session. I request all to mute themselves and keep the questions for the last 10 minutes. And I give the floor to the speaker.
Om Shri Guru Bhyo Namah. Okay, so thank you very much, Dr. Kripa, for this invitation to speak to the members of the HSS department NIT Puducherry. As you are also familiar, I have a very close connection with Puducherry and anything to do with its, academia around also. And because I'm with the IIT Kharagpur now, the technical connection, and also because Professor Hangrekar is your director now, so it's a very special moment for me to be able to share a little bit on IKS with the fraternity or with the community of NIT Puducherry. I just have a small request, please. I would request those who are in a position to do so to kindly put on your videos, because my sessions are normally, I don't intend doing a monologue and you continue with whatever you're doing. I intend to make this a dialogue, a co creation of an understanding of why the subject is important and relevant in today's world and why you need to possibly pay attention to it. So, thank you very much, Minakshi. That's very sweet of you to come on. I thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate your presence online. Thank you. Thank you. That's very encouraging. All right. So without wasting too much time, because time is short also, I will thank you each one who's come on. I'll just go on with the slides thing. But what I will be trying to use, I will try to use two frameworks. When I'm presenting the subject, I will be trying to apply two frameworks of presenting any knowledge tradition. So one is something called the first person principle. Have you heard of this is first principle thinking, sorry. So the first principle thinking, are you familiar with this concept of first principle thinking by chance? Okay, so first principle thinking is when we are able to address a problem, whatever that problem might be, by breaking it down into its smallest components. It's into its smallest units, understand each of those, and then that helps to enrich our overarching understanding of the subject in itself. So breaking down any big thing into smaller bites and then getting clarity around it. So having a much broader understanding and deeper understanding of the subject that we're dealing with. So that's one thing that I'm going to try. And what's so unique about, or what's so special about this particular approach to problem solving or to addressing knowledge traditions is that this is the hallmark of very successful people across the world. So this is just a very nice process to become familiar with. The second one that I will be using is something based from an Indic tradition known as Anubandha Chatushtayam. Okay, so Anubandha Chatushtayam are four components of or that are involved in the presentation of any subject. It could be a written presentation, it could be an oral presentation, and it's a very good framework also for us to make any kind of a communication in general. So I know that I can give you all the answers, but to open the stage to you, what do you think could be four important? So if you want to present a subject, what are the four important components for a subject to be presented effectively? What do you have to keep in mind? Anusya, unmute and tell me. What do you need to keep in mind? I thought you were saying.
Topic.
Exact. Excellent. So the very first one is called Vishaya. Vishaya means what is the topic. So one has to have clarity about what exactly one is presenting. What is the second one?
Whom you are going to talk.
So you already know the Anubandha Chatushtayam.
No. No,
because
I
the
do
order
take
is perfect.
research methodology course here. So
All
normally I
right,
use
sir.
this, but not with the
All right.
IKS content. Yeah.
I was going to give you the compliment that you must be a very effective, communicator. So you have all these factors in mind when you do your presentations. Okay.
Yeah, I do teach for research scholars these things.
Yeah, exactly.
Not with the IKS level.
Okay. So now it's a good thing. So when we are doing this IKS, when we're trying to introduce IKS into mainstream academia, so this is one of the things that imagine you've been teaching all of this as if they're coming down from a Western perspective of research. So when research happened as if it's a Western, introduction into the domain of knowledge acquisition. But here you're seeing that this Anubandha Chatushtaya is an age-old way. It's like coming down from the time of the Vedanta, like really far back. So any subject, these four things. So as you rightly said, Vishaya, what's the subject? The second is Adhikari. Whom are you addressing it to? And the word Adhikari, unlike we normally understand it, would imply who is the deserving candidate. So, which means that what are their qualifications? Because when we are presenting anything, one has to pitch it at the right level. So, and then the other thing is also the audience has to already have a certain background in that subject to be able to appreciate what is being presented. So, one has to keep those factors in mind. Okay. So, the second one, as I said, is Adhikari. Third one, sir, Amrita sir.
Yeah. What is the benefit, the outcomes? Take home message. Take home message.
We have to find out who has written this theory for research method that you're talking, because I'm sure they got it from us. like a lot of what they've got, a lot of it comes from us, but this is like, it's
Take home
unbelievable.
message, otherwise waste of time at the end of the day.
Exactly. So the third point is called prayojana. What is the purpose? And so the beauty with Indian words is that you can take it a little deeper just by going to the root of what that word means. So yojanam means what are you joining together? So prayojanam is what more are we doing with this subject? Okay, so because we're presenting again to a different audience, again there is a prayojanam. Every time there is a new dimension, it's never the same thing. So how are we making these connections happen? So and the fourth one,
I have to think now. Maybe. Uh,
so if you can't get it, it means that we're going to add something to it.
maybe. Um, like. No, maybe some other audience.
Okay, it's open. The floor is open to the rest also. So all the pretty women out there. So what what else? What else do you think can happen? So now we've got 3 points. You've got the subject, you've got your audience, we have established the reason why we want to do it. Now what is remaining?
Yeah, or maybe why
The
we
language or the
Language
uh,
is definitely very important. Preparation, content delivery, Karparaja, Karpaga Raja. Thank you. Yes, content delivery, all of that, yes. What else? The result. Result is not in our hands. Hmm? But what to be next in order to make this effective? You've got 3 aspects. How can you make this an effective presentation? Content, yes.
Communication,
Communication, yes. Medium, all right, yes. So I'll tell you.
feedback.
हाँ बताइए बताइए.
purpose
Is it
maybe.
feedback?
Purpose, feedback, not yet. All right. So I'll tell you. So the fourth point, according to this Anubandha Chatushtayam, is not discussion really. The point is it says Sambandha. Sambandha means understanding the relationship in all of between all of them. How are they all related to each other? Which is another kind of, it's a secondary level of exploration of that subject.
it's like contextualization.
Contextualization, exactly. Contextualization is how you can word it. Yes. Okay. So what we're going to do is with this topic that we're going to be looking at together, we will try and understand all of this. So first and foremost, we are talking to an audience. So what is the Vishaya here? What is the Vishaya of presentation? What is the central Vishaya? IKS. Okay, Indian knowledge systems. So what is this? What is striking about the whole phraseology itself? There's a phrase that we have, Indian knowledge systems. It's not a single word. So what can evoke a question in that?
It's plural.
Systems, exactly, wonderful. So we are not just looking at one. We immediately understand there are many. What else? What else? What is like one thing which is really out of the regular? Like there is a qualifier, right? So what's the qualifier here? We are saying Indian. We are using the term Indian, which evokes the question. Therefore, is there an American? Is there a French? Is there a the very fact that you're using one qualifier implies what could be the other qualifiers and why this qualifier. We've not really talked of this qualifier all along, and suddenly why are we opening up this page or this chapter, and why are we opening it up at a national level as a requirement? So the topic of my presentation is also why. First, why and what of IKS. So what is this IKS business and why are we needing to do it? And in the context of the NEP 2020, what is this NEP 2020 really trying to do? It is a, tell me, Meenakshi.
It's the new education policy
Yes. And
we
what
are
is it seeking
planning
to
to
do? What is it seeking to do? What is the intention underlying the NEP?
to revise the education
Yes.
policies
All
according to
right.
the contemporary needs.
Excellent. Why do we need to, when do you need to revise something?
When you something is outdated or which is not relevant,
Yes. Huh?
which
Or if
is
something
need
has
of
been left out.
purpose. Yes.
Yes. So when if you find that there's something missing or something outdated or something that possibly has not been addressed. So the whole context of IKS, why are we suddenly talking of Indian knowledge systems? Because what was recognized by the administrators within or the educationists was that there is a loophole or there is a gap in the expression or the placing or creating awareness around this Indian knowledge systems. All right. So the next question is, what do you understand by Indian knowledge systems? What bell does it ring in your minds? Just string the words together.
S-
Yes, please. Abhinandan. Yeah.
Something that has yes, ma'am. Something that has to do with our cultural heritage, uh, traditions, and values.
So you've said a few things. So there is a cultural component to it, because the word Indian. So I would ask you one more question here. If you said Indian knowledge system or Bharatiya knowledge system, do the words Indian and Bharatiya have the same ring for you? There is no correct answer. It's just this is an open question to just understand in your psyche the two words Indian and Bharatiya. Do they ring as identical, or is there a shade? Are there nuances of
If
an
you
idea
ask
or
me, ma'am, personally, I would say Bharat would have a cultural belonging. Like we would feel a cultural belonging to the name Bharat because Indian might sound a little westernized.
okay, all right, very interesting. Anybody else has a thought on that? Okay, so largely this is the answer that I get, that the term Bharata seems to have history. It has the weight of history with it, whereas the term India, although I will show you later on also, there have been a lot of references to the term India specifically. That's why they call themselves the East India Company, which happened before 1947. So the notion of an India did exist globally. But when we say, are you an Indian or a Bharatiya, then the word Bharata has a greater ring in terms of our cultural associations. All right. And within that, again, coming back to the term itself, because like I said, the Indian terms have the beauty of giving us the option or giving us the possibility of uh, of appreciating another, maybe the psychological layer behind the word itself. So the word Bharata, are you by chance familiar with what it signifies? If you break it up, have you heard? Have you ever heard it being broken up further by chance? No. Huh? So Bha means light, Rata means immersed in. So Bharata is that land which is immersed in light. Okay. And now, when we say light, again, there is a connection with an Indic way of looking at reality in general. So, reality in general is not mono layered, it's not limited to what you can perceive with your senses. So, the world that we perceive with our gross senses is what we refer to as Adi Bhautika, or the physical world, the material world. All right. But then we all know that there are other dimensions of parallelly coexisting realities. So there is an Adi Daivika or Adi Yajnika. So that is the occult the subtle worlds. So if somebody is happy or sad, it's not something that you can necessarily see, but there is another level of reality that is taking place. Okay, the thoughts, then one can go into the greater spirituality aspect of it, etc., etc. Okay, and finally there is a third level which is known as adhyatmika or spiritual. But what do we mean by that? We mean that there is a layer of existence, or there is a dimension of reality where things exist as such. They are like archetypes of possibilities. So that is what you can refer to as the Adhyatmika, in their essence, undiluted essence. Okay, so when we talk of light, Bharata, this light also can be at the three levels. There is the level of the material where you have a bulb that comes on, or you fire and the daylight is there, there's light. What does the second level of light mean? Connecting to the title?
Knowledge.
Exactly. So knowledge is also referred to as light. And the third level of light would be
Enlightenment.
enlightenment. Exactly. You literally, in English also, it is called enlightenment. So you've got the word light within the term itself, which means that this ability to transpose meaning of a single word across dimensions is a human phenomenon across all cultures. ठीक है? So I'll give you another word just to give you a taste of this and a little more, take this a little further. Is like the word for fire. What's the word for fire in our, like in English, it's fire. Waha, what's the word? I can hear Meenakshi say it. Tell me.
Agni.
Agni. Do you know why it's called Agni? Huh? So now, see, the thing is that uh, did
Hello?
it did it well, let me ask you this. Did the deeper understanding or did the deeper exposure to the meaning of Bharata make a difference on how you perceive the contributions of what Bharata can be? Like, can you would you put India and Bharata on the same footing? You would not. And then when you say I am a Bharatiya, which means I am one who's immersed in light, it has a very different potential experience itself, association experience, questions that come around it. Similarly, the word Agni. So, one of the consequences of being uprooted from our civilizational knowledge traditions is that we have become alienated from our own vocabularies, and vocabularies that were almost like mini encyclopedias in themselves. Every word can unravel a mini universe just by getting into the deeper etymology of the term. So, Agni, for example, it comes from the Sanskrit phrase Agre Nayati iti Agni, that which always goes forward or takes us forward. Why would you say that is relevant to that element or that substance? When you burn if you burn a matchstick, what happens? What is the nature of fire? If you put the matchstick down, what happens to the flame?
It will move upward.
It will always move upwards, and that is why,
Ignite.
no, it will move upwards. If you've burnt a match and you put it facing down, it will always burn. If you keep it down, it will burn up. So the very nature of this element is to always go upwards. The substance is always upward going. Okay, so if you look at, so that's the literal meaning of it. And it was not just like a designated term, it is a term that is descriptive of the function of that word. And that is the nature, again, I say, of all our Indian languages. Our words were very descriptive of the functions of that. So in English, how many words do you have for sun? The sun. English teachers
Correct.
here?
One.
One. Any English teacher? Who are the English teachers?
No
Me.
English teachers there.
Okay, all right. So we have one word, right? In Sanskrit, you have got a stotra called Surya Sahasranama, 1,000 names for the sun. So what happens is that it's just a single object, but our engagement with that object, our perception of that object is increased 1,000 times, because you can look at it like this, you can also look at it like this, you can also look at it like this. And that really can broaden our appreciation and, like I said, interface with whatever we are dealing with. We understand what it can do. It's not just an object anymore. So, so that was that. So, fire, like I said, agre nayati. Now, in English, when else do you use the word fire figuratively? We do use figuratively. No, we use the term when to
Pu- when we are
Angry.
purifying something,
when you're purifying something. Yes. Why is that the case? Why does fire have that element?
maybe
Because it
it
is the
It's
only.
Pavaka.
Yeah, exactly. That is why it is pavakaha. The word pavakaha is used because it is a purifier, because it's the only substance that can burn everything. It can reduce everything to naught, to zero. Huh? That is one reason. So, but in English, when you say the person has a fire to do something, it means they have passion. It means that no matter what
It's
comes in their way, they will keep
passion.
going. Yes, no matter what comes in their way, they will keep going. That is what passion would mean, that you're unstoppable basically under any circumstances. So, the psychological meaning of the fire is it becomes the willpower. Okay, so now can you think of some ritual that we have where you have to light the fire? In our practices, regular practices, we start any activity normally by lighting the fire. Anything, even if you're doing a function, you light the fire. for two, three things. One is it brings light. Secondly, is that it ignites a certain will to achieve whatever the objective might be. So there is a lot of symbolism that is involved in this. Okay, now just so coming back, and then the third level of fire is that it is that which really, I mean, it pushes our life towards becoming a much better person. So there is a deeper, beyond just the mental willpower of an individual. There is a greater reason for our birth and all. So that's the spiritual meaning of the fire within, to do anything. Okay, so I'll now just share my PPT and we'll go forward.
Nice introduction. Yeah.
Wait. Can you see it? Can you see the PPT?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. All right.
Yes, yes.
So now, so we have the title and we've discussed about it. All right. So next, so this is a little bit of the context setting, IKS, NEP, IKS definition paradigms, IKS, some of the IKS wonders, textbooks, research, way forward. Okay, because we're going to be looking at some of this. So again, a question to you: what if there is a car that comes and stops in front of you? You know nothing about it. You don't know its condition. You don't know how fast it can go. You don't know how much fuel there is. You don't know where it is headed, and you don't know who's driving it. How many of you will want to get into such a car?
No one.
Nobody will get into the car. Why?
Completely unknown. It's strange, right?
Completely unknown, and this can
Unrelated.
potentially even lead to our end. So nobody would want to put themselves in an unknown situation. Now, supposing you find yourself in such a situation, what would you want? What will be the first thing you will do? You can't leave the car. I've had those answers. No, you can't leave the car. The car is on the move. You are in it. What will you try? What is the most sensible thing to do?
Maybe talk
If the
to
person knows driving, it will be
No, no, you're not in the driver's seat.
if the
So what
person.
Meenakshi was saying, Meenakshi was saying,
talk to the people inside the car. Try to
no,
know
you're
how.
alone. You are alone
Oh,
in the car with the driver. So whom will you talk to?
to the driver is there.
Yes, there is a driver. There is a driver.
I'll be talking to the driver.
Yes. Why will we talk to the driver? So what is the larger principle that we are applying when we are wanting to talk to the driver? What does the driver have?
Now the scenario is completely
He has
unknown
control.
to us.
No, Amrita ji said. So the driver has control. We are in a situation of non-control. So the desirable direction is to go from lack of control to greater control. Why? Because when you can control it better, then you can move it towards desirable goals, which is exactly the principle of science. Okay, one of the biggest principles of science is that one is that there are laws, and then we have to understand that to get more control so that you can utilize it for various other purposes beyond it. So my second question to you is this: that imagine that you've got into that you have just learned driving. Will you go onto the main road? No. Why? What will happen?
You losing control is has more probability.
Correct. You're likely to have an accident, literally. If
Yeah.
you've just learned driving, you can get into a situation of an accident. Supposing now I've learned driving. I can drive. So in order to have confidence, one would have to first and foremost know the rules of driving, know one's own potentials, and then knowing is one part of the story. The second part of the story is implementing them. Knowing is insufficient. Implementation is what is going to make all the difference. Okay, now supposing you are a good driver, we are all going onto the road, and there is one fellow who says, "It's my freedom. I can drive in any way and any direction I want," and is going in the opposite direction full speed. What will happen? Accident, right?
Any kind of collision.
So, what question am I raising with this? I'm raising a very pertinent question in today's world.
One need to have a proper grasp on the subject
Okay,
and
okay,
should also know how and when and where to use it.
excellent. Yes. And what was the attitude How to use knowledge, excellent. What was the attitude of this person who says, "Arey yaar, I'm going to do it whichever way I want to do it"?
Arrogant.
Arrogant. What else? What else? What is a much larger ideal that they are trying to apply?
Uh,
Ambitious, okay. What else? What else? Freedom. So they say, I have the freedom to do what I want. So the moment you think of that, you automatically realize that the notion of freedom, if it is not within the boundaries of the greater good of everybody, will lead to accidents. Okay? So I will just summarize very quickly some of the points that we've made. One is that in a situation of no control, one has to try and get control. And how can one get that control? By understanding the laws. There are laws at all levels. Understanding those laws, knowing those laws is the first thing. Implementing those laws are the second thing. And our intelligence, contextual intelligence, is critical to ensure that there is no accident. And it's the greatest good for all in our actions that we undertake. Okay? So all of this is not something of a modern age of I want to and I will. There is a certain contextual wisdom which in our country, there was a very specific term for this known as Viveka Buddhi. Viveka is your discretionary context, situational intelligence. Where, what, when. So, Desha, Kala, Patra, to whom. This is a very different faculty than what any of us are talking about in NEP or anything. Again, that's because we're imitating all the values of education from the West. Critical thinking, analysis, creativity, blah, blah. But the core Bharatiya approach to making intelligent living was to cultivate this ability of Viveka Buddhi. How do we have that discretionary intelligence in our action? All right. Having said this, so the fact of the matter is that all of us are already inside two cars at least. What are those cars? At an individual level, what is already on the move? At the
Your life,
individual, something is already on the move. Huh?
broadly your life. I mean,
Yeah,
what happens to
correct,
you and
correct. So, what's the machine in which we are already there?
the mind.
Like, what is the larger machine? What is it that we
Body,
are?
body.
The body. So we are incarnating a body. So this is like the machine that is taking us. What is the big question? If you connect it to the exercise, the example that I gave you, what would you do? We know who is the driver? Do we know anything about this machine? Do we know when it will work? How our heart functions? How the brain functions? How the liver functions? How we breathe? We know nothing about it. We don't even know who the driver is. So the Indian civilization, our forefathers, they recognized very early on that we have been put into certain situations, and the most important investment to make in this circumstance is to start getting an understanding of the machinery in which we are functioning. At an individual level, the individual, then at a collective level also we are on the move. Right? So let's say at a national level. I'll take the nation. So at a national level, which system within that will you regard as important, like the driver of the thing? Who is playing the role of the driver who knows the rules and is implementing them? Whose task it is to instruct the population about the rules, the laws of existence? Mind? No, I'm talking of a national level. If you look at the different bodies within a nation,
The judiciary or the
judiciary, no, but they are
One.
not just education system. Excellent. So it's really the education system which is given the responsibility of making sure who is going where within that system, and within that, whose task is it even more specifically? The teachers. Okay, so it is the teacher who, now you see, for us to be functioning in the best way possible, the teacher is at the heart of it. How the teacher thinks, what the teacher teaches is where this whole thing is going to go. Okay, so we need to become more clear on those aspects. So what have we been teaching, why and all? And I'll just share with you like one of the ways in which the British ended up, such a small nation, they ended up ruling the world is because they were master strategists. Wherever they went, the first investment they did was in getting a detailed survey of the land at all its levels, at its at its geological level, at its in its economic level, education level, at all levels, cultural level. They had a full understanding of it, and then they knew exactly what to pull out where so that the whole thing will collapse like a pack of cards. Okay, because they did not come to stay, so they were only interested in taking away, right? So this is what was there. Now I'm moving on to the next part of my presentation. So few things that were important here. All right. Ah. So the second, just another very quick thing, and then I'll move on, is that if you want to construct a house, what are the factors you have to keep in mind? What is, again, first principle thinking, what is it that you would really focus on ensuring that it is of a proper nature, so that you have a big house, so that your house stands well?
Foundation.
Foundations, yes. Within the foundations also, what would you really focus on so that you say that this house has to be sustainable and stand for a long time?
The materials used.
Excellent. What kind of material?
um,
What would be the
Durable.
quality of, exactly? So within, let's say, the house, the quality of every brick will determine the sustainability of of that structure, the quality of the brick and the alignments of those bricks. If there is clarity on how they're all relating with each other, then there will be a what do you say? There will be a strong foundation as well as a sustainable construction. And then, of course, there are a lot of questions about what do you design, how do you design, all of that, what are your priorities, etc., etc., etc. So the point is that for the construction of the nation, the smallest building block is the individual. So there was a huge focus of the civilization in ensuring that every individual is of the highest quality. If that happens, then there are many things that will already fall in place, because those individuals make up systems, those individuals make up everything else that comes together. And therefore, the education system was also not meant only to help them. So, for example, if I have to ask you again, what is the objective of the education system? What is the end
Get a
product?
job, get settled in life.
Exactly. So in Sanskrit, there's a very interesting point. In Sanskrit, they say that every verb has a fruit and there is a process. So if you say educate today, what is the fruit? Job getting, product. What will be the process? What will be the focus of the teaching? What will be the focus of the syllabus? What will be the focus of the administrators? What will be the focus of the students, their parents? So you see, the entire process then gets aligned to that particular goal. The big question is, what what were the goals of the ancient system of education? If we just take the construction example that I've given now, what would have been the focus of the education system?
Future.
Building.
Future. Just take the example of the construction that I gave you. What was the focus of the construction to get it to be durable and to be strong? What
Foundation.
the foundation and the bricks? Every brick in that has to be of the best quality. Foundation is a general thing, but if the bricks are weak, the foundation will also not
Foundation
hold.
can collapse.
Correct. So
So
now
building
today,
people with uh,
correct.
that kind of
Yes.
ability.
So the building blocks of a society, of a nation, are every individual. Where do we get shaped and literally, what do they call them? Molded. Um in the thing, you get burned. No, when you get formed, let's say, it happens in the education system. So the focus of what the education is teaching is going to decide what is going to happen to us. Okay. Now, next, this is a very interesting fact that in Angus Madison's book, he says that from the first century to the 18th century, about we had 32% to 24.4% of the world's GDP. 1950, after independence, it became 4.2%. And now it's about 8.23%. So my questions again to you are this: that if there is a if you have to have sustained prosperity for a country for 2000 years, what do you need? What are the factors that contributed to sustained prosperity of a high order for 2000 years? Education. So, what quality of education again? Today, also, we all have education. We are at 8.23. So, when does education become,
Value based.
yes, value based and high quality? So there are two things. The individual has to be, yes, high order thing, excellent, excellent. And the second is the material knowledge that they have, because life is made up of application in different disciplines. Those disciplines also have to have heights of their own knowledge, whatever it might be. Okay, only then will you have demand. When you are of a excellent quality, that's when the world will demand your products. Okay. Next, so one is knowledge. Then there was also the application of that through skills, and there was a monetization of that, which went into the trade aspect of it. Okay. Next, my next question to you is: would that knowledge have been in one domain, across domains? Next, were they in silos or were they connected?
Connected.
Connected. Excellent. Then now 2000 years. Or the other question is, was it only one section of society that participated, or you had everybody was participating?
Everybody ideally should participate.
Not ideally would have. This is, we're talking of history.
Hmm.
So should have is in the future. So if in history we have 2000 years of prosperity, then what was the level of participation of every member in that society? It had to be at least at par, whatever that power might have been, each one in their own respective ways. So we start recognizing that a lot of stories we've been told about our society and how it were happening were possibly questionable just based on this data. I mean, we need to relook at that. We're not saying that there were no discriminations or all of that. I'm sure there were, but at large. Huh? So then the next thing is, it was going on for 2000 years. So what else do you need for it to continue for 2000 years? What do you need to have in place so that they can go on for 2000 years?
A
Transmission.
sustainable system.
Yes, transmission mechanisms. What were they teaching there? Was it something that was just backdated, or what else did it need to have? It needed to be contemporized. It had to be very adaptive to the best of those times. Exactly. Updated. It had to be adaptive and updated with the latest to stay on top of the charts. So the system was not just a backward thinking, but we were ready to move ahead with whatever is coming. So the best of the East and the best. So whatever we were going, our traders were going world over, and they were bringing back things for us about how things were moving. Okay, and then we could take it forward. So there are a lot of records. Also, there are some very good books. One is called The Beautiful Tree by Dharampalji, a book worth reading. Another one is Sciences in Ancient India in the 18th century. Sciences and Technologies in the 18th Century, again by Dharampalji. It's on these lines. I'm not remembering the exact name, but Sciences and Technologies in in 18th Century India. Huh? Again, is by Dharampalji only. So where he's saying that the British officer is writing that we have brought in new tools for plowing the earth. Huh? And we find that we thought that the farmers would reject it, but we find that they're very ready uh, to have a look at it and give it a genuine try, and then based on their experience, they will reject it or accept it. Which means that as a people, as a mind, we were not closed to listening and learning. All right, so these are some very important points that have come up in our discussion. Then what happened in 1942? What would have, sorry, in this, when it happened in 1940, 50 or 1947, when we came down to 4.2%, what really happened to us? 5,000 years we've been, 2,000 years, because in the first century, if it's 34%, it means we've been doing things right for at least 500 years before that. Okay, so 2,500 years, let's say. Then what happened? What happened to us after that? What do you think happened? Okay, I will tell you. So then comes, so just to to substantiate what we have concluded altogether, Said al-Andalusi, the Qadi or Chief Justice of Toledo, he was writing an early global study of the history of science which focused on the debt the Arabs owe to the thinkers of South Asia. It is one of the most contemporary statements of the power of Indian ideas and the prestige of the Indosphere in medieval Arab world. So he says that the first nation to have cultivated science is India. He wrote, "This is a powerful nation having a large population and a rich kingdom." Sorry, there's a typo there. India is known for the wisdom of its people. Over many centuries, all the kings of the past have recognized the ability of the Indians in all the branches of knowledge. The Indians, as known to all nations for many centuries, are the metal or the essence of wisdom, the source of fairness and objectivity. And my question again to you is that to become the source of fairness and objectivity, what would be the consequences of that? Can we call ourselves that today, that we are the source of fairness and objectivity at an individual level, at a collective level? Do we have those qualities still? And if you have fairness, if you have objectivity in your way of looking at life, what kind of knowledge develops? What happens to the way you're treating everybody? A lot of consequences just from there. Okay. Uh, then he says they are people of sublime pensiveness, universal apologues, and useful and rare inventions. In spite of the fact that the color is in the first stage of blackness, Allah and his so very racist comment, but in our favor, he says Allah and his glory did not give them the low characters, the poor manners, or the inferior principles associated with this group, and ranked them above the white and the brown peoples. To their credit, the Indians have made great strides. I want you to notice this. In the study of numbers and of geometry, they have acquired immense information and reached the zenith in their knowledge of the movements of the stars and the secrets of the skies, as well as other mathematical studies. After all that, they have surpassed all the other peoples in their knowledge of medical sciences and strengths of various drugs, the characteristics of compounds, and the peculiarities of substances. Their kings are known for their good moral principles, their wise decisions, and their perfect methods of exercising authority. As to theology, they are in the agreement. They are in agreement as to the unity of God. Okay. Next, what happens? 1835. We have Macaulay. What does he say? A single shelf of a good European library was worth the whole native literature of India and Arabia, devaluing and trashing of Indian knowledge system and regional languages. The intrinsic superiority of the Western literature is indeed fully admitted by those members of the committee who support the Oriental Plan of Education, institutionalizing inferiority complex regarding IKS and establishing intrinsic superiority of Western thought. The literature, Sanskritic and Arabic, inculcates the most serious errors on the most important subjects, including false history, false astronomy. I will just take you back. He says they have reached the zenith in their knowledge of the stars. False medicine, we have here. They have surpassed all the other people in their knowledge of medical sciences in company with a false religion, therefore repudiating the genius of Bharata and associating a stigma of backwardness and irrelevance. And what did they say? Instead, he proposed that English is better worth knowing than Sanskrit or Arabic in order to form a class who may be interpreters between us and the millions whom we govern, a class of persons, Indian in blood and color, but English in taste, in opinions, in morals, and in intellect. Therefore, systematizing and restructuring and the substitution of worldviews and then forging alien imposter identities from within. All right. So, my question to you is here at this point. My question, I will just pause this again here and ask you this: that imagine that you are given the responsibility of making a syllabus, right, of deciding what will happen to the education, and you are convinced about all these ideas that I read. Intrinsic superiority of the West, everything that has been taught for the last 2000 years is trash, is false, inculcates the most serious errors on the most serious things. What will you teach in that syllabus? What will you teach? If you're convinced that everything Western is superior, what are you going to put in the syllabus? Yes, sir?
Compare, compare.
No. You're convinced that everything that has been taught so far is trash, false, and everything in West is superior. I have to make a syllabus. I mean, you have to make a syllabus. What is the content of that syllabus?
Everything English, which is
Everything
uh,
Western.
Based on the literature, based on the science, medicine.
Everything Western, in short. Okay. Now, if you're teaching somebody everything about Western thoughts and all, and they need to study more about it, where will they go?
They have
Where
to
will
go
they
back
go?
to the
Huh?
fundamentals, right? The cause root.
No, I'm saying once they'll go to the West. So if everything Western is presented in the education system and you want to know more about it, you will have to go there logically. Now imagine you are an investor. Education is the biggest investment in citizenship building. You're putting in your money to grow seeds into trees. Where are they bearing the fruit? Who's enjoying the fruit?
The outside. Like,
So, as an investor, what is the question that you will ask yourself?
How to retain our citizens.
How to retain the fruits in your own country? When will that happen? When will that
When
be
you
possible?
rebuild the education system.
When at least they know that what has this land done, and also they understand that what is outside, a lot of what is outside is also being inspired by what is here. In fact, William Dalrymple, who is the author of that book, The Golden Road, it's a book worth reading, really worth reading. The Golden Road, huh? William Dalrymple. He has a video also where he says that half, if not more, of the world suckled on Indian ideas, and he talks of the Indosphere. We don't even know about those things. All right. So when we're talking about this, it becomes important to start understanding. So logically, therefore, whether it's BJP or whether it's anybody else, any investor, any administrator who is keen to retain the fruits or to enjoy the fruits of your own investments will think of saying, what the hell are we teaching? And why are we teaching the way we are teaching? Again, the mind has always been in a manner to be able to incorporate the latest with the wealth of our own knowledge repositories. It was never at the expense of contemporary knowledges. Take it. That is what we had seen. So this whole movement of IKS is also saying we're not thinking go back only to the past and start clapping hands and saying we had all this. No, you have to see what was there. How do you make it relevant today with the latest of today in order so that there can be a futuristic there can be futuristic sustainable ways of looking at things. Okay, so we have here. So this was just a kind of a Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where we are saying that in 1947 we were down there, where we had nothing. We had been deprived of all physical material wealth and all. So we were down there, but after 75 years we are in a position where we can actually ask ourselves these questions. So it's also there is a historical evolution to the possibility of raising these questions. In the beginning they had to feed people, so the requirements were different. So this is what NEP says. It says a curricular integration of essential no, it says knowledge of India will include knowledge from ancient India and its contributions to modern India and its successes and challenges, and a clear sense of India's future aspirations with regard to education, health and environment, etc. These elements will be incorporated in an accurate and scientific manner throughout the school curriculum wherever relevant, and then it builds on it further. So, therefore, NEP is nothing but looking back to look ahead in order to make progress in a desirable manner. So, this is the vision of the IKS division where I'm a coordinator. It says that the vision of the IKS division is to rejuvenate and mainstream Indian knowledge systems for the contemporary world in the current societal context. And there are three things that we keep in mind. One is there was a certain worldview that inspired this knowledge tradition. There were certain traditions of knowledge. So, do we even know, like if we take up the mathematical tradition, do we know who were the mathematicians who have contributed the world to, in a great extent, what it is today? Just to give you an idea, so for example, Al Khwarizmi from Arabia came and studied Sanskrit and studied what he calls the Hindu mathematics, took it back to Arabia, added his own thoughts to it a little bit. Fibonacci from Italy came down to Arabia because his father was posted there. He learned this method of mathematics, took it back to the merchants of Venice, to the merchants in Italy. They then started applying Hindu numerals or the decimal place value system into their into their calculations and all, and suddenly their business boomed. And then they came and took us over. Okay, so that's a different thing. But so, who are these people in our tradition? What were the texts that they have written? Again, what were the vocabularies and technical terminologies that had evolved? We know very little of all of that. How can we reintroduce them like we just did with the research methodology, and seeing the original, no, I can't say original, but seeing an equivalent in its from the ancient Indian literature to substantiate it. So can we also create this awareness in our students that it's not just this, but there is a connection in how we looked at things? Okay, then laukika prayojanam, how do you bring out the practical application of this? Bringing it from the libraries, bringing IKs from the libraries to the laboratories, and from Shastra to Samaja. And this rich heritage and detailed knowledge created and acquired by Indians over millennia in the Indian subcontinent. These are repositories that are systematized through manuscripts and shastras, traditional knowledge, oral traditions, folk songs, stories, arts, handicrafts, and traditional skills. Just for my curiosity, any idea how many manuscripts we have that have not been touched today? But we know they exist. Approx. You'd have to just unmute and tell me. Any, just a wild guess. Make a quick guess.
300.
So it's anything between 4 to 30 million manuscripts that have not been tapped, that are there to be discovered, of which at least 10% is hardcore scientific content. Okay. So if we talk of what is the wealth on which we are sitting, it is a bit like that. There was a story of this, this fellow who died a very poor man. He used to sit on a certain pile, on a certain box, and he used to sit in front of the temple and beg and beg and beg. And one fine day he died. So then people said, let's just open up his belongings and see. And they opened up the dabba, and it was full of gold and precious stones. So we are a little bit in that story today, okay, when it comes to contributors of knowledge in the world scene, on the world stage. Okay. Yeah. So one of the things that we're trying to do is this Bhaswan or Bharata Swadhyaya Andolanam. And what is Swadhyaya? Swadhyaya is search for verifiable and authentic dimensions of heritage for youth advancement based on yogic applications. Okay, what do we mean by this yogic applications? So by this we mean that Indian knowledge systems are traditional knowledge systems. It has paradigms and content. The content, all of them have a geographical part, which has a regional, national, and international context and impact. And there is a historical and cultural part of it. And then this knowledge, what is the yogic dimensions? So the five I's are: it is internalizing versus externalizing. It is integral versus partial, interdisciplinary versus compartmentalized, intuitive versus mental, inclusive versus exclusive. Okay. I I won't have the time to take you through all of it, but I will very quickly just take you through an exercise. I'll take you through an exercise and one example, and I'll have to do this in a rapid fire mode. So my question to you is, I want you to look at your hands and tell me what you see. What can you see? Lines. Your electricity has gone at your end.
Yes, sir.
The light went off, and I hope the inner light is coming on. So that will be the light of, if IK's light shines, then you're very well catered to. All right. बाहर का लाइट, दिस इज द होल थिंग ना, बाहर का लाइट ऑन ऑफ होते जाएगा, बट अंदर का जो लाइट है अगर उसको हम जला देना, इफ यू कीप लाइट दैट लाइट, no nobody can ever put us down. So this whole attempt at bharatiyata again is saying that can we reignite the light within, and this is a message. And very quickly, your hand, I just have a minute. Kripa, can I take 5 more minutes?
Yes, you can take your time. Yes.
Sorry. So I want you to see your hands and tell me what you see. Quickly.
Lines, fingerprints.
Lines, fingers, texture, color. Okay? It would make sense to put mehendi on your hands, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now, imagine that you have an X-ray lens in front of your eyes. What will you see?
Bones.
Bones.
Bending.
Will you just bang your hand like this? Will you just bang your hand? You will think twice because you can see the bone structure, right? You can see the shock on the bones. Will you put mehendi? Will you put mehendi? If you had X-ray? my on a lighter vein, I ask people, I said, imagine that you were stuck with an X-ray lens and you have to choose a life partner. What will be the, your priorities? Life will look very different, right? Everything. Huh? And the third one, imagine there's an infrared lens. What will you see? You'll see heat patterns. You'll see heat patterns and all. So in those heat patterns, will you ever burn your fingers? Because you can see red. You'll not go there. Okay. Will you put mehendi? Perhaps, because mehendi has a heat property. Not for beauty, but for heat. Understanding how does it react. That's why the words were descriptive rather than absolute in themselves. All right. So you see, I understand my thing. So what did we establish? Did the object of perception change? What were we looking at? The hand. What changed? The understanding of that hand changed.
The lens.
The lens changed. With the lens, what changed? Our perception of
Perspective.
reality. When perception changed, what happened? What was affected?
Our understanding.
The inference also.
Our behavior was affected directly. When behavior was affected, outcomes are affected. Okay, maybe you'll not choose the partner that you're choosing today. If you found that their bone structure was weak, let's say. Okay, if you had an X-ray lens, you never know. Okay, so what I'm just saying is that it evokes some very interesting possibilities. Okay, now, so and these realities, are they parallelly coexisting or they're like very far off? Are they parallelly coexisting realities? They're all parallelly coexisting, right? Huh. Now imagine that we go deep. You have a microscope. Then what do you see? First thing you will see.
All
Cells.
the cells and all.
Before that, you see.
Dimension.
So what will you see?
Dimension. Change in dimension of an object, right?
Correct. That is one thing for
Magnified.
sure.
Magnified.
Yes, absolute. But what are the first thing you will observe on your hands?
Fingers.
Microorganism.
Huh? Bata, not fingers. Nay, through a microscope. You're looking at your hand through a microscope. What is the first thing you will observe?
Organism, germs, etc.
Germs. Exactly. Now, if somebody says,
Okay.
now you're stuck with a microscopic lens, how many of you will say, I'm a pure vegetarian? It'll change the way you look at, you will redefine things. Okay. Now, next, if you have a more powerful lens, you will see the blood cells and all. Our hands will all start looking the same. You have an even more powerful lens of a quantum lens where you're looking at atoms and all. Will you see your hand? Will you see your hand? You'll not even see your hand.
No.
You're putting, and is it static or is it vibratory?
Emotional.
It's in motion. Yeah. Now you are putting on that. You have put on the lens and you're looking at yourself in the mirror and you say, "Who am I? Who are you? Are you there? Have you
More
disappeared? Are you there?
We are
Have you
more
disappeared?
complex than we think of us.
No. When you put on the lens, quantum lens, and you're standing in front of the mirror, and I'm asking, "Who am I?" Are you there or have you disappeared?
We are there.
You're there. Correct. Because otherwise, who's seeing? Correct. You're there. Are you aware that you're there? You're aware that you're there. What has disappeared? The form as you know it.
Uh,
Yes.
Correct. Now, tell me, Meenakshi, you're saying something.
no, I was just responding to you.
Okay. Now you're putting that lens and looking at the world around you. What will you see?
A different
What?
world.
What is the quality of that? Will you be able to say, I'm sitting here, my table, my laptop, my chair, my... What happens when suddenly... If you had a
We
quantum
see.
world... Hmm?
We see
You lose
what
a sense of form.
Yes. And what happens therefore to the world? How far
we
are
see
you?
the
How
true
far is your
components.
reality? Can you say, I stop here? So our potential extends to... What are the numbers that you will use to describe this experience of yours? So
So number.
0 and infinity. So can you see 0 with your eyes or can you see infinity with your eyes? But you can see 0 and infinity through your experience. So the reason why this civilization contributed the 0 and infinity to the world is because we saw it in our experience. And because we saw it, we came up with verses like Purnamada and many others. But it change the way in which we could function. If I think I'm only Anuradha Choudry looking like this, etc., with these associates, I will live my life in a particular way. If I change my lens and I say that is also Anuradha Choudry, and when she's Anuradha Choudry, then if you were stuck with that lens, how would it change the way you live your life? For example, could you do harm to anything ever? Is there a difference between you and everything else? So the way we had this very inclusive thing, but this only happened when we could deep dive into ourselves. So that internalizing versus externalizing, integral versus partial. We are not just parts, we are one whole vibrating different kinds of realities. Okay, and interconnected versus compartmentalized. We have not sort of fragmented realities. And intuitive. This knowledge is not about somebody said, okay, now this. You suddenly see things. Okay. That's it. That's how I can understand things. Like I said, at that level, if somebody said this is a man, woman, fat, thin, fair, dark, will it make any sense? All the boundaries start blurring. Okay, so this is one way. And then because we saw things at that level, the way we led lives, the knowledge that we came up with was very, very different. So when we are talking of Indian knowledge systems, we are referring to all those knowledge traditions that had this kind of a broad based possibility and came up with creations like architecture, medicine, a whole lot of things. Maybe another time, if I have an opportunity, I'll take you through those in greater details. But I will just close with one quotation here. Can you see the thing? Where is the where is my thing? Yeah. I will just close here with a quotation here where it says
Okay.
there was an automatic association of close with the finger going to the close button. I'm so sorry. Okay, but I got the message from above that I need to close, so I shall also do that in a very short while now. In just literally, I'll show you two quotations and I'll leave here. So it says, okay, so this was the X-ray lens, that's the infrared lens, that's more or less what the quantum lens would show us. And so Nikola Tesla says, if you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibrations. All right. And I will skip all of this, but I wanted to just show you one thing is that if our minds are like this, which is what the social media and other things are doing, the result is bound to be confusion. So we were really, I will just come to the close of this. We'll run, like I said, I will ask Dr. Kripa to invite me again. This is a total
Oh,
self.
I'm realizing that maybe we should have probably extended it. I
No,
think
no, no,
1.5 1 hour is probably a little less to discuss
no,
such
no,
a
no
big,
problem.
vast topic.
Oh, it is a vast topic, but I'll just close here with the closing. So this is what Arthur Schopenhauer says. He says one day India's wisdom will flow again on Europe, and will totally transform our knowledge and thought. So that is the expectation the world has from us. If we don't know what is our knowledge, there is no way that we will be able to enlighten anybody else. So we have to sort of make that movement from India with a Western knowledge system to a more Bharata. And when I'm saying these things, please don't take me in a, as a, what do you say, as a, in a narrow parochial sense is not what I'm saying. I'm talking of what we have discussed and what they represent. So that's what I'm requesting you to take into consideration. That how can we really tap into this vast knowledge base that had put us on top of the world charts. Okay? And Sri Aurobindo says, he says, we shall review European civilization entirely from the standpoint of Indian thought and knowledge and seek to throw from us the dominating stamp of the Occident. What we have to take from the West, we shall take as Indians. And the Dharma once discovered, we shall strive our utmost not only to profess but to live in our life, individual actions, in our social life, in our political endeavors. And therefore when we are now nirbhara, we're dependent, and therefore we will be dependent on others. We need to become a little more independent, then we start creating our own systems When we are more full of our own knowledge, then we will have greater independence, what Sri Aurobindo says. But eventually, until we fall back on the vast foundations of our worldview, which goes from the external material to the subtle spiritual, says only then we'll get our fullness. So this is just the IKS division. Please look us up. We are keep having programs. These were some of the programs, but the deadline is over. Sorry, one.
Yes, one of me and one of my colleague
You've applied.
applied for postdoc. One of my colleague applied for a postdoc.
Nice.
I'll be mentoring him here. Hope-
Nice, nice, nice. Very
Yeah,
nice.
we'll
I
think
will
of.
just
We look
very
forward.
nice.
Yeah.
I sincerely hope because
Yes.
now all the applications all of ICSSR, they used to get maybe 1,000 applications. This time with IKS and all, they've got only 11,000 applications, and they've
Okay.
selected about 11 of them. So I think
Okay. I'm speaking about this
IKS
recently
recruit.
closed, right? February 30,
I know
28th.
that's ours. That's ours. That's ours. So I'll just close with this. Sorry. One second. I'm just messing up with the order. I just wanted to close with this quotation.
Yeah.
This is the quotation that yeah, what happened to this now? Wait, no, this is not the intelligent way to do. One second. I'll just end on this note here. Okay, we come here, we put this on top, and it goes back to mind and mindset. It's almost, I'm trying to come to my last slide and it wants to go back. No, now I have it. Okay. I'm trying to come to my last slide to close and it says mind and mindset. Okay, so it's all about mind and mindset from the start.
Doesn't want you to finish.
Yeah, it's saying mind and mindset. And so it says here, the last one is, in the end, we will conserve only what we love. We will love only what we understand, and we will understand only what we are taught. Huh? So with these few words, I think there's a huge weight of a historical responsibility that we have. I'll just give you one last example here. That, for example, in Japan, I've heard that you cannot finish a thesis if you do not incorporate what has been Japan's contribution in that knowledge domain. So I think these are things that we have to bring in so that at least it will require people to maybe consider. It's not that it has to, be there or it is, but at least consider possible contributions. And if there is a lot, which there is a lot, then make that part of it. And there is light. So I think we are at the right place to stop.
We got light. Yes.
So thank you very much. You
Thank
were
you.
all brilliant. You were all bang on, spot on for every question. So thank you very much. Very,
Thank
very
you.
nice.
Thank you. I'm from physics background.
Wonderful. So
Yes.
I hope I was not telling stories, sir.
No, 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 no. It was very relevant, and I am very believer of Indian knowledge system.
Okay, nice, nice.
Yes. Okay. Thank
Nice.
you. Thank you very
Thank
much
you.
for a wonderful interaction and session. It was very interactive, not like a one-sided. Very
Yes.
nice.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kripa.
Thank you.
Dr. Kripa, for
Thank
this
Yes,
invitation.
thank you so much. Actually, Dr. Bide, who just was speaking to us, was also initiated the NEP related much of the work that's being done at NIT earlier.
Very
So
nice.
he was also responsible for that, and he conducted several workshops.
Very
And
nice.
we have, in fact, we were one of the first institutes to implement NEP early on. We are trying to manage that with our BTech curriculum and everything. So he was
As
instrumental.
one suggestion I had, like even for ITs, trying to see how to make it happen. But the suggestion, especially for engineering, and also if you've got civil engineering, then in civil engineering there are structures just around Pondicherry that are very ancient and solidly standing there. So if there are internships and all, can we bring in a component? So every curriculum should have a component of regional knowledge tradition, national and international impact. No, so international maybe comparisons and all. So when we're giving projects to students, especially technical students, use things like the latest, like AI, no, not just AI, AR, VR, modeling, all of that. For that we discover, so we are doing something called heritage technology, using technology to showcase heritage and heritage to innovate technologies. So how can we bring those aspects? So if there are projects that you're giving, give children these kinds of projects where they'll be forced to go out there and do a study and then document it using the latest. So they need to know the latest technologies and applying it on the ancient and understanding their technologies, and then give them the choice. Let the youth at least have the choice of deciding what they want to pursue ahead. Right now, they do it because they have complete ignorance. They're just like these horses.
Dwelling in dark.
Yes, 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 yes. I
Okay,
think.
any questions from the students and any other audience members? If you have any questions, you're feel free to ask.
Who was on the HSS department link?
Atulya, is that you?
Brilliant. She was on,
Yes.
bang on.
Yes,
Wonderful.
ma'am. It's Atulya.
Ah,
Yes, yes.
okay.
Wonderful, wonderful. Very nice. Thank you. Very, very
Okay.
interactive. I hope you can always keep this enthusiasm to engage with the, whoever's talking, speakers. So
So
thank you.
thank you so
Really
much,
nice.
and giving us a very sort of in-depth perspective about the need for IKS. And it's so common to have misperceptions and to kind of stereotype it, but to really see the true initiative and what we are really trying to do, and how we can contribute in the education system, being part stakeholders and part of an institute like an NIT and IIT. I think that was quite eye-opening. I hope the students can also take this further. Thank you.
Thank you. Please convey my regards to Professor Gangrekar also. Thank you. Namaste.